At 65, Evelyn wasn't just grieving the man she'd spent her whole life beside, she was grieving the life they had carefully built, brick by brick. No pension. No savings. No family showing up. Just long, echoing days that felt like they belonged to someone else. And the silence? It wasn't peaceful. It was sharp. She stopped cooking. Forgot appointments. Her hands trembled more than usual. She thought it was just sadness. But sadness that doesn't heal? That can turn into something deeper. Something dangerous. Research from the National Institute on Aging shows that chronic grief and financial stress in older adults can lead to real physical decline, loss of appetite, chronic fatigue, even impaired thinking. But because it doesn't show up as a fever or a broken bone, no one talks about it. Evelyn didn't talk about it either. Not at first. But then something happened. She stopped waiting for someone to rescue her. She got tired of being invisible. And she made a decision that changed everything, not all at once, but enough to remind her that she was still here. Still whole. Still worthy. And what happened next might just change how you see the rest of your life. You know, when Evelyn came into my office the first time, she didn't say a word about depression. She didn't use any big terms. She just said, "I don't feel like myself anymore." And honestly, that told me more than any checklist ever could. There was no drama in her voice. Just exhaustion. The kind that sits in your bones. She'd lost weight without trying. Her sleep was broken. And the sparkle in her eyes, the kind people who've lived full lives usually carry, it just wasn't there anymore. And yet, she still smiled politely, still made small talk. Because that's what women like Evelyn do. They push through. They minimize. They survive. But survival isn't the same as living. And somewhere along the way, no one had told her that. That's the thing I see too often with older women. You've carried families. Supported dreams. Held things together when no one else could. And then, one day, the world stops asking what you need. It just assumes you're fine. And if you're not fine, well, you should be. But grief doesn't follow a timeline. And losing someone, especially a partner, especially after decades together, doesn't just leave an empty seat at the dinner table. It pulls apart the foundation of your daily life. The rhythms you were used to. The tiny conversations that made mornings feel worth waking up for. Evelyn told me she didn't realize how much of her identity was wrapped up in her husband until he was gone. And worse, she realized how much of her safety net depended on him too. No retirement plan. No life insurance. Just a house too big and a heart too tired. And here's something most people don't know. That kind of grief, when it mixes with financial stress, can change the way your body works. We're not just talking about sadness. Chronic stress in older adults has been linked to heart problems, weakened immunity, and memory loss. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system gets stuck in a state of alarm. Like a smoke detector that won't stop beeping, even when there's no fire. Evelyn wasn't lazy. She wasn't dramatic. She was simply in pain. The quiet kind that doesn't show up in blood tests, but shows up in how you move, how you eat, how you stop calling people back. And maybe, if you're being honest, you felt some of that too. The day Evelyn decided to stop waiting was a quiet one. No dramatic movie moment. No big speech. Just her, standing in her kitchen, staring at a stack of unopened mail and realizing she was tired of feeling invisible, even to herself. She told me later, "I kept waiting for someone to come knock on my door and tell me what to do. But no one was coming. I had to be the one." And that was the shift. Not a miracle, not some overnight transformation. Just a shift. From hoping to choosing. She sold the house, too many memories, too many empty rooms. She moved into a small apartment near a church she liked, even though she didn't know anyone there yet. She said she wanted peace, not pity. She was done performing strength for everyone else. And honestly, that's one of the healthiest things I've ever heard a patient say. Because here's the truth, we spend so much of our lives taking care of others, especially women. We tie our worth to how useful we are, how much we can give. But when no one needs us in the same way anymore, it's easy to start believing we don't matter at all. That's what we call role depletion. It's when your identity has been so wrapped up in helping others that you forget who you are without them. And it's not selfish to want something more. It's human. I asked Evelyn, "What does peace look like to you?" She smiled and said, "A small space I can keep clean, herbs on the windowsill, a place to put my shoes without tripping over anyone else's." Simple, right? But it was hers. She picked up a part-time job cleaning at the church. Not because she had to, but because she liked the rhythm of it. She liked being around people, even quietly. She started taking short walks again. Bought herself a new coat, nothing fancy, just warm. It had been years since she'd bought anything that wasn't on sale or for someone else. And day by day, Evelyn started to take up space again. Not loud, not flashy. Just solid. Present. Grounded. You see, there's something powerful that happens when you stop waiting for the life you had and start tending to the life you've still got. Routine, no matter how small, is medicine. Studies show that older adults who engage in even light daily activities, gardening, volunteering, walking to the corner store, report better mood, sharper memory, and even live longer than those who stay isolated. But it's not just about what you do. It's about why you do it. When your actions come from self-respect, not obligation, it changes everything. Evelyn wasn't starting over. She was simply starting to see herself again. Evelyn never told her son off. She didn't write him a letter demanding respect or closure. She just stopped reaching for something that wasn't reaching back. And that, too, was a kind of healing. There's this myth that healing always looks like reconciliation. Like forgiveness, or reunion, or some grand moment of being seen and thanked. But sometimes, healing is just choosing not to carry what was never yours to fix in the first place. She stopped sending care packages. Stopped checking her phone. Stopped rewriting history to make sense of the silence. Instead, she started asking herself better questions. Not why doesn't he call, but what would make me proud of my own life today? She didn't have big goals. No plans to travel the world or start a business. What she wanted was presence. To wake up and know she wasn't waiting. To feel her feet on the floor and know she had chosen them to be there. And that's the thing most people overlook about later life. It's not about finding more time, it's about finally using the time that's already yours. Evelyn started hosting herself the way she used to host guests. Clean sheets, warm food, soft music. She lit a candle for no reason at all. Not because someone was coming over, but because she was there. That was enough. When she came in for a follow-up appointment months later, I barely recognized her. She hadn't changed physically. But her voice had. It had depth again. It had ownership. She told me, "I used to feel like a ghost in my own life. Now I feel like the main character again." And that, more than any pill, more than any lab result, is what tells me someone is getting better. We don't talk enough about this part of health. About reclaiming your space. About redefining your worth when no one's clapping for you anymore. But I'll tell you this, the body knows. The mind knows. The nervous system knows. When you choose yourself, not out of anger, but out of quiet respect, your entire biology starts to respond. Evelyn didn't heal because she fixed her son. She healed because she stopped believing she had to. And maybe, just maybe, that's a choice someone watching this video is ready to make too. You don't need a big moment to begin. Just one honest decision to stop fading and start showing up for your own life. Even if it's with a cup of tea and a quiet morning. Especially then. Because you are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are still here. And that's more than enough. If you find this helpful, give it a thumbs up. If not, type 0 in the comments, but if it helps, let us know by typing 1. And don't forget to subscribe for more life-saving health tips. You know what's interesting? Evelyn didn't have some perfect ending. She still missed her husband. Some mornings were still quiet in a way that ached. And her son? He still didn't call. But she stopped needing life to be perfect in order to feel at peace. She found something else, something steadier. A kind of inner calm that came not from getting everything she wanted, but from letting go of what had been hurting her. And that's the part of healing we don't celebrate enough. Most people think growth has to be loud. It has to come with big declarations and bright lights. But Evelyn's growth was quiet. It looked like showing up to her job on time. Like watering her little herb pots. Like going to bed without waiting for a message that wasn't coming. And her health? It responded. Her sleep got better. Her appetite came back. That cloudiness she used to describe, like her brain was wrapped in cotton, it began to lift. Not overnight, but gradually, as if her body was saying, "Thank you. I've been waiting for this." You see, the human body has a remarkable way of listening to how we treat ourselves. When we ignore our needs, it starts to show, in fatigue, in tension, in mood. But when we begin, even in small ways, to nourish ourselves with kindness, the body doesn't punish us for waiting. It welcomes us back with open arms. So if you're watching this, and you've spent months or years taking care of everyone but yourself, I want you to know, it's not too late. Not even close. You're not selfish for wanting peace. You're not dramatic for feeling lonely. You're not weak for wanting help. You're human. You've lived through things people wouldn't understand unless they've been there too. And maybe you're thinking, I wouldn't even know where to begin. That's okay. Evelyn didn't start with a master plan. She started with a decision. One day, she stood in her kitchen, made herself a proper breakfast, and ate it at the table, not in front of the TV. That was it. That was the first step. The next day, she made her bed. The day after that, she called the church about a cleaning job. None of it changed the world. But it changed her. And that was enough. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to fix everything. You just need to believe, deep down, that your story still matters. That your presence still counts. That there is nothing small or silly about choosing to live again, no matter how long you've been surviving. That choice is yours. And it always has been. Sometimes people ask me, is it really possible to change that late in life? And I always say the same thing, the body doesn't count the years, it responds to what you do with them. We've been told for so long that aging is just decline. That it's a slow fade into invisibility. But I've seen too many women like Evelyn prove otherwise. Not with grand gestures, but with quiet defiance. The kind that says, I still get to decide who I am. And the truth is, if you're still breathing, you still have the ability to grow. Not just survive, not just float through the days, but to root yourself into something solid again. Something nourishing. Growth might not mean getting younger, but it does mean getting stronger. More honest. More yourself. I've seen women in their 70s learn to paint. I've seen women in their 80s go back to school or start singing again after decades of silence. I've seen women in their 90s volunteer at hospice centers, offering comfort to others because they've walked that same valley and found light on the other side. These are not exceptions. They're just women who stopped believing they were done. And maybe that's what you need to hear today. That you're not done. You're not past your prime. You're not too old to matter. You're not meant to spend these years waiting for permission to be happy again. You still carry wisdom, tenderness, and presence, things this world desperately needs more of. So please, don't underestimate the power of your own attention. When you choose to care for yourself, to feed yourself well, to rest, to move, to be seen, something in you begins to rise again. You don't have to do it alone. There are others like you, whether you met them or not. And there's room for all of us to start again. Even quietly. Even slowly. Especially then. Because sometimes, the strongest thing you can do isn't push forward, it's simply to stop disappearing. To say, with gentle resolve, I'm still here. And I'm not done yet. If you find this helpful, give it a thumbs up. If not, type 0 in the comments, but if it helps, let us know by typing 1. And don't forget to subscribe for more life-saving health tips.